Hey guys, this is John here in Los Angeles with the Alpha Channel update for Saturday, June 15th, 2024. And today we have Conan the Barbarian, Death in the Land of Dagon, number 66, Roy Thomas, John Buscema, The Tribe as embellishers, and Michelle W. with the credit for colors. So again, these are old 4-color process comics, usually done with watercolors or markers. And yeah, John Buscema's on point as always. I'm glad he spent so much time doing this as opposed to just superhero comics. I kind of can't stand superhero comics. The bang, pow, boom stuff is just kind of goofy. Notice, get this, Roy Thomas once famously told Stan Lee was giving him some advice on a panel. And he said, hey, in this little, where they're crossing swords right here, it'd be really great if you had a little ting. And Roy Thomas, this was like 20 or 30 issues in, he said, we don't use sound effects in Conan. And Stan just sort of stared at him. And Conan was a winning book. So there was no change in it at that point. And he just kind of swallowed it and didn't respond. And then, you know, here's one. Here's some sound effects in these 2 panels. So whatever Roy Thomas said, apparently it did not last. I didn't even notice these earlier when I read this. This is Conan and Belit breaking into a village. They bribe a couple guards. And then, this is the part where they bribe them? Yeah. Then they get attacked by some other guys. The village, the city is not safe. And so they get attacked by some rival merchants. They're going to a fence. They have a bunch of stolen goods. And no one wants to deal with the blacks. This is literally the story. And Belit is the queen of these sea devils, which is a black tribe. And no one wants to deal with them. So they're forced to go to this other fence who has this devil lock, like he's right out of the Misfits, this guy right up here. And he's not going to give him a good deal. And he's like, well, you go somewhere else and blah, blah, blah. Just drama. It's kind of nonsense drama. Conan's really just kind of along for the ride. But it's a great comic. It flows. Here's where we get somewhere. They finally get to this temple. The temple is where all the problems of this village are emanating from. And there's these 2 giant statues. There's a priest in there, I believe. Yeah, he's talking smack to them. And this is just a great comic. It flows beautifully. Right now I'm flipping past ads. And I skipped a couple pages. But here's Conan and Belit facing the wizard. And the wizard suddenly brings these 2 statues. So this is what happens. They're not facing the wizard. Right now they're fighting the statues. Check this out. So these are the 2 statues of Dagon and his queen up here. And Conan and Belit get engaged with the statues on this page, engaged as in fighting. And the female attacks Conan and the male attacks Belit. And right as Conan is about to strike down the female, Belit cries out to him and says, Conan, I need help, because she's just about to lose. And Conan realizes she's about to lose and I'm about to win. And so instead he throws his sword at the priest. You see it laying right up here next to his head. And the illusion is broken. Conan and Belit were actually fighting each other and not these giant statues. The statues are still right where they were. You can see down in this panel here. They haven't moved. And this is always a nice touch. This is good. This is a good thing for like a book where, you know, the main character hates magic. He's always getting conned and tricked and hypnotized. And then this happens. So Belit and Conan get what they want, but a new player has entered the game. Dun, dun, dun. Next month, in Conan 67, Red Sonja and Belit fight over who gets to take the treasure, whatever treasure that might be. So yeah, next month's gonna be good. Red Sonja. And Conan's named Amra in this one, so obviously he beat the lion Tarzan guy. But this, I know I went through this fast, but this was a great book. Conan doesn't actually fight the male character Dagon. Belit does. So the cover on this one was a little bit not realistic. You know, the cover on the last one, I'm going to dig down to it, because this cover on the one from the other day was actually the most, has been the most accurate cover that I've seen so far that depicts the story inside of all the Conan that I've looked at so far here with you guys. And the reason I'm doing this is because modern... Oh shit, I hope it didn't break my modem. The reason I'm doing this here with you guys is because something I said yesterday, that there's not any modern entertainment on the level of Conan the Barbarian or the Punisher. It's all woke as heck. I mentioned that I prefer tragedy over comedy, but really martial sort of entertainment, war and death over romance. And I had sort of challenged anyone to tell me what they could find that was this good, that had this kind of energy. And I was reminded that The Boys has 3 new seasons out, or 3 new episodes out for the new season, season 4. But season 4 is the most woke season of all. Eric Kripke did this in Supernatural. Ben Edlund from The Tick is working with these guys. He has been for a long time. But this is Seth Rogen, and they made Frenchie gay. I mean, I guess he always was gay. But it's just, it's action, but it's woke, gay, incredibly hard to watch. Actually, they had a naked guy fighting in half of this episode. It's terrible. It's degenerate. It's filth. And Conan is the wholesome version of that. You don't have to do it the way, you don't have to push the barriers. You don't have to push all the barriers all the time. There's a scene in a Solomon Kane episode where he's fighting a pirate in the pot, surrounded by pirates in the treasure room, not fighting for the treasure, but just for revenge, one against one. And he's got him over a table with a dagger over his chest, and he's slowly winning, just inch by inch by inch, slowly driving the dagger down into his chest. Today we'd see some John Wick kind of stuff where the character would have to do something to accelerate it and cut and move. But in this Solomon Kane scene, you had everyone watching this happen, and the pirate king is slowly losing the dagger is slowly being driven into his chest, his windpipe and whatnot. You're not going to get that. You're not going to get that in the modern stuff. John Wick is pretty close. John Wick is as good as you're going to get, and that series is over. They couldn't do that again now. I don't know what this new Crow is going to be, but it doesn't look good. I've been looking at the old one and comparing the old one to the comics, and the old one had a lot of gravitas that they couldn't do for the movie. And when they explained it, I heard an explanation that made sense. They wanted the movie to be very kinetic, and that was not present in the comic. The comic was a very still, sort of haunting, it was black and white, but could have been a black and white movie, but it wouldn't have been a blockbuster. It wouldn't have made the money. It would have made a tenth of, that sort of movie would have made a tenth of what The Crow made. The Crow still makes money. It's a shame that, that it happened, that everything happened the way it did. So, Wildwood Tarot today is the 9 of Vessels, generosity. Be generous. Give your time. Give your effort. You have nothing but what you give to people. The stuff you have is just stuff you're clutching and you're afraid someone will take away from you. You don't really have something until you give it away to someone else. So this is some great art here from Wildwood Tarot. This is the book. I love this Destiny, timekeeper character. This is the box, the Green Man, Hearn, the Forest God. And Wildwood Tarot is awesome. I have some art that I did last night that I can show you guys. Oh, and I also want to recommend here on YouTube or anywhere you can get great audiobooks, an English philosopher by the name of Alan Watts, who spent a lot of time. First, he was an Anglican priest, which is basically a priest of the Church of England. The Church of England got sick of the Catholics being pedophiles and corrupt and stealing their money and whatnot. So they did their own sort of Protestant Reformation and split from the Lutheran Church or whoever that it was that wouldn't give King Henry the divorces. And he created his own church, the Anglican Church. And Alan Watts had been a priest for a while, and I guess he was defrocked. I don't know if it was for drinking or for fooling around, but he did end up getting married and having kids. And he spent a lot of time in the Far East studying Zen and Buddhism and Chan, which is Zen in China, and Shintoism in Japan and India and all that. He did all that. He studied a lot of the religions of the West. And what he came back with was the concept, the framework, that it's very difficult to recognize the culture you're swimming in until you have another culture to compare it with. And so in the 60s, when there was this big explosion of Zen and yoga and meditation and all that stuff here in the West, he was a big part of that. He was part of the intelligentsia. He used to hang out with Aldous Huxley, and I guess he knew Carl Gustav Jung and drank with him and did drugs with him and stuff. So here is one of the drawings I did last night, just a stairwell to have some kids skate down. But the point I'm talking about with Alan Watts, he's an awesome guy to listen to. He exposes a lot of stuff about our religious culture, the cultural framework that we see the world, and a lot of the same things about the Indian or Chinese or Japanese cultural framework, now they see the world, and how we both have our own traps, our own sort of tide pools that people get caught in and keep them from being washed out to sea, as it were. Here's a coyote I did last night, just a rough, just looking at a photo of him. The kids have a coyote for a pet, so this is a really bad rough. I didn't have a picture to look at, and I realized I needed one. It's a weird thing that's happening with me as I'm noticing with my drawing. Suddenly some things are getting harder without photo reference, and I'm having trouble putting proportions together. And I don't know if it's, lack of experience. I'm going to go with lack of experience. But yeah, so I don't have quite the same problems writing. When I can identify my writing problems, I have words for them where they don't have all the words I need to identify my artistic problems. But yeah, I don't have too much else I want to say or talk about. It's the weekend. I was busy all day today. Got out for some skating, did my chest workout, and yeah, I've got a big weekend coming up next weekend. I might miss a day or two of this, but that happens. That's just life. And I'm going to spend some time working tonight, writing and drawing. I'm really excited about it. I might even get a hand-painted hand grenade. Get some color down on one of those or something. But I hope you guys are having a great day. And this channel, I'm going to say it again, this Alpha channel is dedicated. No one's born an alpha. Every kid is at one point a student. And a student is always a beta. I remember one of my teachers, or I read it somewhere, that for your first 6 months in any martial arts school, you shouldn't ask any questions. You should just do what you're told. And martial arts schools are notorious for rigorous discipline on the early belt levels and not being a place for conversation and joking around. And that's good. I like that. I think that's important. I think you need the fundamentals. You need to build the fundamental linguistics before you can start bringing outside influences in. A lot of these arts, if you want to study different arts, don't go and try and punk a teacher out in front of his class. Collect the arts and work out what works about them in private sessions, with your friends. You don't want to do that. We've all heard stories about someone who walks into a class and beats everybody up, and that's happened. I've heard stories from masters who've seen that happen. But that's a level of disrespect that's unnecessary. Nobody wins in that. If you bring something new to the table and your only way to Natsu Kagehisa and the Ichiru, you guys should go watch Blade of the Immortal. It's a 30-issue manga series about what Miyamoto Musashi might have been like if he had been interested in gathering a bunch of followers. He was an untrained natural, but he developed some very unique rules about martial arts, specifically strike first and strike to kill. And the Ichiru is the single stroke sword style where you draw and attack in the same motion. And that's really important. In the West, that was replaced by the Great Equalizer, the 38, the pocket snub nose that anyone could carry in their purse, man or woman, specifically women, could carry and protect themselves. And I think that's a big part of why Victorian England developed the manners and the civilized. They're famous for their manners and etiquette, and so is France. And I think that's because a lot of people at this very specific point in time in their culture had pocket pistols. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think the world could use more politeness. Specifically, I'm speaking to one fella whose face I got into today in his comment section. kind of lighten them up a little bit. But, you know, I've posted cringe. You guys can light me up in my comment section. Having a thick skin is part of growing. We all need to do that. I certainly have, you know, as one of the great famous, I think it was G.K. Chesterton said, well, if you're going to insult me about that, if you'd only known about all my other faults and vices, you really could have had a go at me. So, no one's perfect, you know, but criticism's good for everybody. Find it where you can get it and take it to heart and make yourself a better fighter, better writer, better artist, better person. When you get all the money you want, you're left with problems money can't solve. There's nothing stopping you from solving those right now. So, all right, see you guys. Have a good weekend.